Hello, everyone. I had a bit of a moment of panic. I nearly closed down my tab because I
Oh,
had
don't
to
do
switch
that.
between the two tabs to set Facebook Live. But we are here. We're still here, and we're joined by the amazing Courtney from Creations by Courtney. Hello and welcome. So,
Hello.
Courtney was talking to us about join as you go for garments. What a game changer, right? Because join as you go, less sewing, less kind of after attaching panels after you do it all as you go, less ends to sewing and more crochet time. I was
Yes.
totally sold at the more crochet time and I was all there. So amazing technique that Courtney just taught us. And we've got already people popping into the comments. So put your questions
Yeah.
forward. Julia's here. Hello, Julia, and Debbie again. Hello. So put your questions forward in the comments. We are here to answer them all. Well, Courtney more than us, but we'll chip in.
We'll try help.
We'll kind of, you know.
Yeah, Debbie was watching, weren't you, Debbie, in the comments as well? And you were asking, I don't know if it'd be helpful to re-ask your question, if that would be good, so that we can answer in person and chat about it.
Yes,
Absolutely.
please
Yeah.
ask all the questions because I know sometimes I am way out of the box with my ideas. And so, like, seriously, ask the questions because it's not as hard as it seems. It's really just, and I know we've all done a version of like attaching on the side, but it is a little bit different. This makes it a little neater and it's not as bulky. Oh, and thank you, Bethany. My top is actually the berry crop top. I did a crochet along recently with my community. This version has sleeves. The one
love
you
those
can
sleeves.
find the videos on my YouTube because I take you through beginning to end. That one is sleeveless, but I also talk about making modifications. So yes, and this one has a ribbed hemming. Like I'm sitting down, but
It's very beautiful. I love the texture on it.
Yeah.
yes, and if you do it in two colors, it's reversible. That way you get two in one looks.
That is even more exciting. I love it. I love
Yes.
And
it.
that color really suits you, I do have to say.
Yeah.
It looks
Yeah,
great.
I'm jealous of the vibe you're giving now. Sleepy Bear saying, loved the amazing class. I had to do the left-hand version when I miscounted my 384 starting chains. Oh,
Ouch.
I never thought about join as you go. Great class. Yeah, the join as you go thing, I think, is then very forgiving, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yes.
There are lots of ways that it's not about cheating, it's not about fudging stuff, but you know what? Sometimes we do need to do things like that, and it's okay. And this is a really good way of enabling yourself to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I mean, who hasn't been making that really long chain and then you've counted it 5 times and you're like, I got it. You get going and you're just in the rhythm. And then something says, check your numbers. And you're like, where did 5 stitches go? So, like, yeah, you could also use this to extend that when
Mhm.
a few rows in where you can make your little chains, catch up to where you are, and then just keep going without frogging. Because, like, if it's a large chain, that project is likely just going to go in timeout. You're like, no, I'm not doing
Yeah,
500
yeah.
stitches again.
Yeah.
I think I would cry through the whole 348 chains, frogging them back.
Wow.
Even a couple of rows in.
You say about counting it 5 times, being sure you've got the right number. I count them 5 times and I get 5 different numbers. And then I'm like,
Yes.
well, now what do I do? Now where do I go from here? But there are why does that happen? I know. Any tips and tricks? I like to sail to the wind, but stitch markers definitely.
Yes.
If you really have such a long chain, every like 10 or 20. Yeah.
Absolutely. Even if I'm doing like 100 and say like 30 or so, I will still use stitch markers because for some odd reason, I'm like, okay, and I'm like, wait, this one should be 25. Why is the marker over here? So it's like, then I'm like, okay, let me get more stitch markers. We're going to do every 10 instead of every 20 or 25. And I'm just like, okay. I started a project the other day and I'm like, okay, I've counted this and I was still off by like 1 stitch. I'm like, okay, the math is right. And
Crazy.
so again, I did a little extension thing. That's a whole other video I should do. Like if you're off by 1 or 2, do this.
Yeah, definitely.
I
Yeah.
was like,
Um,
I'd rather add extra and then take it apart than be like, oh, I gotta add.
Yeah.
Julie's saying, yeah, stitch markers every 20-25 stitches, definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
And everyone's agreeing with this and recognizing this too. Yeah, we're not alone. We're not alone.
No,
Yeah, and Sandy as well saying Edie every 10 chains. I think it doesn't really matter how far you space them apart as long as you're consistent with how you space and you know what you've done. That's the main thing, isn't it? That's the
exactly.
I feel like for
easier
me
to count to 10.
Yeah, exactly. For me,
Over and over.
go over. I get to 100. I'm good for 100, and then anything over 100, I'm like,
it's a different type of math after 100.
Right? It really is, and I'm great at math, except for counting starting chains.
It depends who's around me as well. As if someone's trying. Literally, why do they always want a conversation when you're counting? Why?
That's the rule. That's the rule. If it's not my kids, it's my dog. She does it while I'm working too. Like I'm in the middle of meetings and then here she comes, pay attention to me. And it's like, excuse you, like, can you like wait?
Yeah.
Oh dear. But yeah, the thing I loved about your presentation as well, Courtney, is that it's not just garments, is it? It's applicable for any crochet. That's the thing. That's the thing. And I want everyone to know, like, even if you're not a garment maker, don't worry about this. You can apply all of these principles. And you know, who doesn't want a nicer, neater join and all that kind, and less bulk and all that kind of stuff. All of the stuff that you've talked about, you can apply to all projects, really, can't you?
Absolutely. Like, so most of us probably have swatches we've made, right? Why not make it an eclectic blanket? You know, like if you're making practice swatches, you could use it and be like, let me add it to this in this new way, like joining strips in a different way. Like if you're going to make a shawl or a blanket, again, I love making garments. So that's why like I've taken the time to learn from others and fiddle around with it over the years because I don't like the seam. I will do mental gymnastics to avoid making multiple pieces.
I love that.
Right? I'm just like, there has to be a way to do this in the round or be like, let me look at this. So like the cardigan that's behind me in the video, that one, the pattern says make the back panel, make a front and two fronts, right? A left and a right. And I was like, yeah, I could. I thought about doing just one large chain, but the shaping is very particular at the arm opening for the sleeves because they're set in sleeves. So I use that join as you go and there is no seam. Like we would traditionally see if we seamed with the yarn needle. And that was what made me so happy. Like it feels more tailored.
Yes. Did you start with your back panel and then work the front panels, joining it as you go?
Yes. So working on the left side and then also the right side. Yeah. So
what's the name of that jacket? Just remind people if they want to go and find it. Is it in your shops?
No, that one was from one of my pattern books from my shelves. Oh my goodness. It's like the belted jacket. It's on my shelf. Hold on.
It's funny. If I make the screen, I don't know if oh no, I don't want me wider. I want there we go. I want Courtney there so that we can see it. There we go. There we go. We can see it all now. There we go.
Where is it? Of course, in this moment, I can't find it, and I'm just
of course not. Not now. You need it.
Oh. I know the cover. Hold on.
Hopefully, you'll find it.
I called myself organizing my books recently. Why did this happen?
Oh, I love this from Julia. There's a magic button on Crochets behind that activated when we sit down. It alerts everyone to come and bug us.
Yeah,
I love it. Oh, the crochet.
Oh, lovely.
Oh. This is how they made it. So they made wider sleeves. I did cuff sleeves. I prefer cuff sleeves. I'm clumsy and I would have my sleeves in food or something. So it's the belted pant coat. And so I modified it because I did a graphic on the back. I put words on the back.
Oh, so nice.
But yeah, I was like, no, I'm not going to sew these pieces together, get to the end and realize that something isn't lined up anymore. And that's another reason why I love this method, because you can, like, as you attach, you're lining up every row.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, does that ever happen when you're trying to seam? You think you have it lined up, but then like you get towards the end, you're like, wait, why
Yeah.
is this?
Yeah, it's gone
Yeah.
off. Yeah, and it doesn't need to go off by much, does it? For it to then
No.
be really off.
Definitely.
Exactly.
And that's the thing with the mattress stitch. You think like you going right row to row, row to row, and then say you get to the armhole, and then you go one extra row on one side. And you're like, I'm sure I was lining them up properly.
Yes. And it's just like, oh, and then to try to take it apart, that's more painful
Especially
than
mattress
cropping.
stitch is just
Right. You're just like slowly pull it apart,
yeah,
trying to find that
yeah,
thread to pull, and it just is
yeah.
like it just wants to disappear, wants to melt into the yarn. You'd be like, well, this is going in timeout, or at least that's what I do.
Oh yeah. Yep, I like this. Joanne's saying, I love to join you as you go, so sleekless and seamless. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. It does. It elevates. And Michelle Ferguson came and talked to us yesterday, didn't she, about making your garments feel more store-bought. And this is another way of doing that, isn't it? You know, there's yes, finding the right yarn, yes, finding the right pattern and construction for you, but then also just elevating and making sure those whatever seams you have got to do, if you went there, use the join as you go, it then elevates it yet again. I really
Yeah.
very important to do.
Absolutely.
Sometimes those finishing touches can totally make or break a project, don't they? You've got, nice and neat stitches, perfect yarn, perfect combination. But then when you join the panels and you get a really ugly, bulky seam, it really does show that this is handmade. So the join as you go, like you said, Courtney, it lines it up row by row, and it's probably the neatest way to go. So definitely a great technique to have in your library, and not just for garments. Like you said, you aimed it at garments, but anything you need to join any kind of fabric, and especially joining fabric kind of like the side stitches together. I think I find that the trickiest, because you haven't got any specific, when you join in tops of the stitches, it's pretty
Right.
straightforward. But
Exactly.
the side seams, the sides of the stitches, it is definitely a tricky technique to
Right.
get really
Right.
nice and neat. But with the join as you go, that's definitely the way to go. Joining sides.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like, I like to use it at like the shoulder seams, right? Because sometimes if it's not top down or a raglan, we still have to do some seaming. But like the first method that I showed with the motifs, I use that for shoulder seams all the time. So like I made this one, when I get to that last row, like I make this stitch and connecting to the other side, all at the same point. So literally I don't have to cut a really long tail to then connect the pieces, and I make sure everything is lined up, right? So that's why I'm just like, it's a way to simplify, especially if you can't find your yarn needle because they're little. I'm always losing them. Like, I have so many, and I have them like in a little container because again, you set it down and it just disappears. So it's just a way, like, say you're out with your kids and you're so close to finishing. I don't know about you, but I want to finish right now.
Yeah.
And this can do that, where especially if I'm like, oh, I'll just take my hook in the project. I don't need all the other things, because I will do that to myself, knowing I should always have it. And it's just another way to finish. So it could be shoulder seams, it could be blankets, because I've only done one granny square blanket and I've never done it again because that was before I knew join as you go, and it just scarred me for life.
I was going to say that I really like the join as you go, Granny. I don't think I've ever used it before, but I've seen it lots, and I often think, why don't I do that? I should do that. Yeah, it's so clever because you actually add the height of your round, don't you, in the joining of it. It makes so much sense. You're cutting out so much time.
So as Sleepy Bear just commented, it seems like it will help keep the gauge consistent, and it would, because you're working around, you're finishing that last round as you're attaching, so everything's going to be very similar in size. So when it comes to blocking those squares or whatever shape, it's not going to have to pull as much, just like if you sewed by hand, where again, like we were saying, you think it's lined up, but then it's slightly off and everything is slightly askew. And so now you have a rhombus instead of a rectangle.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's what you want. I mean, I'm not going to knock a rhombus blanket. It'd be really cute.
Harry's asking an interesting, good question for shoulder seams that need reinforcement. Can you do a motif type join and then slip stitch on the inside to reinforce?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you're working through. So when doing that join, you're working through both loops. So it's going to be pretty strong anyways. It's going to feel like the mattress stitch, but I think a little bit better because again, you're completing the entire stitch. So the entire stitch kind of takes the tension.
Takes the weight.
But if you really wanted to be secure, you absolutely could then slip stitch on the inside. And again, it like reinforcing, especially if you're using like a natural fiber that will grow and stretch over time, it will help maintain the shape of the overall project.
Yeah, definitely. And I did it once with cotton yarn. I got because the piece was quite naturally heavy because of all the cotton. I actually did extra reinforcing. I didn't do a join as you go, but I did extra underneath after I did the seam as well. So yeah, it's never a bad idea to reinforce stuff, is it?
Never. We spend so much time on our projects and they deserve to look amazing forever. So, a little extra goes a really long ways in keeping it looking brand new.
Yeah, definitely. So if someone's never tried a join as you go method before, what would you recommend as like the one to try? What's the most accessible first level?
Ooh.
Or does it depend on their project maybe as well?
Honestly, I think the second method I feel like would be easier because yes, like if you're working on the right side versus the left side of a fabric, you're still just working in rows, versus with the motifs, what can kind of throw one off is like making sure like what's your right side versus your wrong side of the square if it's not clear. I most often always turn my work so that either side can be up, but sometimes you're working on something where you never turn. So it's making sure you stick it in the right way so that when you lay it out flat, it doesn't look bulky, that it looks nice and smooth. So I think actually working off to either side would be easier because it's just working in rows. So instead of chaining up, you're really just slip stitching in the other stitch.
Makes sense. Definitely. Sandy's saying, I click it and then I can't see it. Sorry. I love that your join as you go is really lining things up. I've seen other methods where the pieces are still slightly off at the join. Yeah.
Yes.
And does it take practice? Does it take practice to get that technique right?
Yeah, but really the trickiest part is just making sure you're putting your hook in the right way. So again, if you have a piece and you want to work to the right of it, it's making sure your hook goes front to back or back to front, just like when we make post stitches, right? So that's the hardest part to remember, but it's really clear to see if you put your hook the wrong way, because then it does create a little bit of bulk if you wrapped it the wrong way, if that makes sense, right? So it's really easy to see like, oh, okay, let me take that out. And again, it's just one stitch to redo. Or if you're doing a double crochet, it's just, you just pull a little bit and then just redo that last yarn over and pull through.
Yeah. You could actually put a stitch marker on one side.
Yes.
So like just whether it's the right side or the wrong side, just put a stitch marker on that side so you can keep track of sides.
Absolutely.
And when you on that one side with the stitch marker, if that's the side, you go kind of front to back. When you see that stitch marker, it's right, this is my front to back rather than back to front, inserting the hook. So
yes. And again, like Sleepy Bear commented about maintaining gauge, that really helped when I worked on this cardigan, because like I watched the Q&A with y'all and Michelle yesterday, and she commented about that, how our gauge will change throughout the project. So again, when working on a bigger project, how you're feeling that day, how you're sitting is going to change the gauge. And it just helped when I work on it. Like everything just lined up so much better because I worked on it like over 2 weeks and, living life. And it just, I didn't run out of yarn because that was my worry, because I dug in my stash to make that project happen.
Oh dear.
Oh gosh. And I think it's so much when if you're seaming in a traditional method or sewing seaming, I think it's really important to do it in one sitting, because that's it. It's hard to come back to. I find it hard to come back to it, and it's hard to come back to it and be consistent with what you're doing. Whereas this way around, actually, you can give yourself the time and the space to do it. So although it makes it quicker, it also means you can also be more relaxed, I think, as well.
Yes, and I think it saves us a little bit on yarn, because think about, like, with a big project, how much yarn you need. Like, the rule I learned early in learning crochet, like when you seam, you want it to be at least 3 times the length of the seam. That's a lot of yarn when you think about it. But if you're joining as you go, it's like this much more to connect it to the other piece, which is a lot less than, you know, doing this 3 times because you're putting all the squares together.
And I always have tons and tons, because I'm like, I do not want to run out and have to then either rejoin anew or start again. I do not want
waste
to do
it.
that. So I always do way more than I need. So I do waste more yarn, because then literally I'll have really long tails at the end. I'm like, why did I leave it so long? But I do it consistently every time.
So for anyone who is playing the yarn chicken game at their project,
this is it.
Join as you go is it, because you only need tiny, extra, was it like a slip stitch worth of yarn really for each row?
Honestly, not even a full slip stitch. It's like half of a slip stitch amount of yarn to really connect it when you think about it. Because I was playing yarn chicken last night. I was working on a project. I was just going, and then I got to the end of the row, and I was like, whoa, that was close. I had like this much left on the row.
When you don't realize, you didn't know that you were playing yarn chicken. That's good. That's good. It's a happy surprise when you win.
No, I didn't sign up for this game.
Whereas if you kind of see it, it's down here and it's unwinding, and you're like, ooh, I still got a row to go.
Right. I didn't realize how small it had gotten, because I had it like in a little pouch, like a yarn bowl, and I was just like, and then I went to turn. I was like, oh, there's nothing there.
Game over.
I was like, oh, okay, awesome. I told my husband, he just looked at me so confused. He was like,
I
was like, this is good.
I've done that before. I'm like, oh, that was a close one. And they're like, close what? What?
Living on the edge.
Absolutely.
Exactly. 15 years together, he still has no idea what I'm talking about when it's crochet.
It's okay. That's fine. My husband recently, he does some photo shoots for me and with me, and then we went out on this photo shoot, and there were like 3 or 4 things that I was wearing, like garments, like full on. Took me a long time to make. I made them, sat right next to him in the evenings, and he was like, when did you make that? Who made these? And I was like, me. And he was like, when? I was like, over the last 6 months. He's like, really?
Yes. Yeah, they're completely oblivious. But my husband, he's great. He attended the Southern Comforts Fiber Festival with me last year. So we live outside of Atlanta, and that's in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's just a few hours up the highway. And he wasn't completely bored. He was like, it's really interesting to see you and your friends like in your element. He was watching sports on his phone, though.
Did he carry your bags for you? I mean, that's the important thing to me.
Eventually, really, I was just trying to get his debit card.
Oh, yeah. You carry the card. So funny.
But no, he's great. He'll usually, especially if there's an event happening around my birthday, that's usually my gift. He's like, here, and go have fun. And I just disappear for the day, because a friend of mine hosts a yarn crawl with various shops around Georgia. So he'll usually just give me cash. And if it's multiple days, he's like, how's it going? I was like, well, let's not talk about what I spent today. You went through all of it in one day?
Yeah.
No. Just
pass. Another question. Pass.
Or I plead the fifth. Okay, you don't want to know. Just
you don't need to know. You don't need to know. That's the other thing.
I'm just saying. Sometimes there's that yarn that calls your name. It's like Courtney, and then if it's a really great color, And then there's only 3 left. Like, you can't separate it. It's like
you may as well get it.
litter.
Yeah.
You have to. You can't leave that one just sitting by itself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
It would be cruel.
this is why my stash is what it is because it's like, well, it was 3, so I had to get it. And sometimes it's like, oh, well, there's only 8 left. Like, I did go to Joann's before it closed here. And I was like, let me just see. And then I discovered it's an alpaca blend yarn by the K and C line. Those yarns are so nice. I was like, I'll just get like 2 and make like maybe a little scarf. No, I don't make scarves. I bought all 8.
Nice.
So I'll make some little sweater top out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beverly's saying, Courtney, that's the goal of every crocheter. I think that's the debit card comment.
Exactly.
Oh, and then Debbie's asking, we almost run out of time, but this is a good one to finish on, I think. How do you get the confidence to make garments?
You just have to start. So I'm such a nerd and I love learning, right? This is probably like why I'm a psychologist in my day job and helping people. So I'm always like listening to things to help. And I love listening to Mel Robbins. And she shared in one of her episodes a definition of confidence that's different than how we usually do. It's the willingness to try.
Yeah.
You just have to start. And that's the thing. If you're not ready to make a full-size garment for yourself, right? And I have twin girls that are 8. And so they have like those 18-inch dolls that a lot of girls and kids like, right? You could consider making a garment for a doll to just start because the idea is the same. You still need to know how big it's going to be, like how long is the sleeve going to be? Because you don't want to make, I don't know, or maybe the doll wants really long sleeves to the floor. But you could start by making like a doll size garment just to kind of get the idea of like, okay, I need to be aware that it needs to be this size and not this size, right?
Yeah.
So working to those specific measurements, isn't it? And once you hit that on the smaller scale, you can keep crocheting bigger things. Yeah,
exactly. Anything we can do small scale, we can do in big scale. It's just it's going to take a little more time and obviously more yarn. And none of us have an issue buying more yarn.
Of course,
a whole other hobby.
There we are. Yeah, Deanne's saying, I love that. The confidence to try. And that's all it is, isn't it? And the confidence to know that, do you know what? I will learn stuff along the way. I will probably get stuff wrong along the way, but it doesn't matter. And arming yourself, I think, as well with the right resources.
Yes.
Not trying to go it alone. Don't try and go it alone. There are so many crochet designers out there that do amazing garment patterns, that do tutorials for them, that offer support. So make sure that you find someone that you are happy to go to for that support, and will give you it. And the crochet communities out there are amazing. Join one. Become a part of a crochet community. They would be my tips as well.
Or crochet alongs, like Courtney just mentioned. You just finished that beautiful top. So crochet alongs when a large group of people is working on the same pattern, going through the same bits, and one person might struggle with this bit, and that you all help each other and get through the tricky bits together, and you get the designer support right there as well.
So for this one, because my original sample was in 2 colors, and I'm always trying to figure out how to make things easier with the color change. So I had a lot of ends on the first one, but then I sat down, figured out a way to carry the yarn and it not show, because this stitch, they're post stitches. And so if you carry along the bottom, you'll see the color pop through. So I figured out how to carry along the top. But one of the participants figured out even another way to carry the color. And that was the beauty of doing it as a crochet along, is like they shared their picture and explained it. And it's like, this is freaking fantastic. So now you have 2 options to carry the color and not have 35,000 ends. Like I almost tossed the whole project away because I was like, oh, the end.
So just very quickly, are you planning any garment crochet alongs anytime soon? Anything on the horizon?
I might throw something together for this summer in a very kind of haphazard way, to be perfectly honest. Like, because I normally pre-plan things, but I had to wait for the summer schedule for my kids. And if you're willing to trust me, I think I will probably throw something like, I have this idea in my head of like some long, airy, like cardigan, duster, swimsuit cover up that like it's burning an image in my head that I think we need to just do it together. Like I will write the pattern as we work together. Just trust the process, because I recently released a course on taking any stitch to make any garment you want, simple garment. And I want to kind of do it as a crochet along. So I might just be doing that. And if you got the VIP ticket, you do get a discount for that course.
Do it. There we go.
There we go. There we go.
From Stitch to Style. You want it. And if you're not ready for that, my ebook, The Ultimate Guide to Garments, is freely available. Just sign up for my newsletter. Someone recently shared their progress. They took my guide. They showed me what she's made. It's freaking phenomenal. She's making a cardigan that probably comes down to her calf with what she got in my free ebook, The Ultimate Guide.
Amazing.
So you just have to be willing to start. If you can make a scarf, you can make a garment.
Definitely.
There we go.
I'm with you. Oh, Courtney, it's been so lovely. We've overrun. We've run out, very much run out of time.
I know.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me. This is so fun.
Oh, thank you. And absolute delight as always. So so pop over now. Oh, Julia said the next video has started, and it's my video. So go over to my YouTube channel, or stay on it if you're on the live here on my YouTube channel. That's confusing. And watch that video, and then we will pop back here, and just Veronika and I will be live, and we'll chat all about shawls. So thank you so much again, Courtney. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon.